social media.
And now we're recording. Not only.
And you will not
but
record this.
that's part of it. I will, because I kind of need to, to transcribe my stuff afterwards as well.
Okay, we will speak in sentences. So it's easier to subscribe.
That would be great.
Clear sentences.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Because we are having troubles
Speaking sentences.
on the Mondo interviews. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You guys interviewed Armando.
Yeah, I interviewed them.
All right. For your semester project.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. How did that go?
And he was designing for on the Mondo website, and I was in Google.
That's where they know them, man.
I'm just
It would be cool to
That's
have
what he
Google's
knows.
new software to transcribe. You
Oh,
wouldn't need
what?
to spend 6 hours like
Wait, what? They have on their software to transcribe?
yeah, like in new Android Q or whatever. They announced that they will now have like local software on the mobile to very quickly transcribe voice into
Or
text.
where can I get it from?
It'd be
It's
amazing.
coming. It's coming.
No,
Oh,
no,
it's coming.
yeah, it's not there.
No, okay, fair enough. Well, yeah, I mean, we decided for now. I mean, I decided for now to just not do the transcriptions in our semester project because we just don't have time for it. We're gonna do them the last priority, like the night beforehand, if we have time, But it takes a long time. And it's, yeah. Okay. So, all in all, what do you think about this AU PPL model group work thingy in general?
In general.
Yeah. What do
I
you
think
think
it's
about
a good model. I can see that AU is very proud of it because they, on the very first days, like they always mentioned it, that's their like key feature against other universities, that they're very proud of their work and these students very easily integrate into actual working environments. And I see theoretically it's actually very good. In practice, it's sometimes difficult because of the group works. Like sometimes the group just doesn't work out. Sometimes everyone tries to work on the same thing, but it's hard in a group because in a work environment, sometimes it's more like, okay, you do the front end of a website, you do the back end. Like it's different concepts that you're working on. And in uni, it's hard to differentiate those tasks because all the examiners still expect every student to know everything about the project.
I see. Kris, what do you think?
Generally, I am fan of PBL because my experience with until AAU was studies were very theoretical, and I was a bit tired of it because I see that at the end that lectures itself are giving me very little, and I learn the most by practically doing. So my favorite part about PBL is that we actually have to implement something ourselves, because that gives us this task for us to implement something that works, and through this trial and error process we learn actually how to use technologies, and you cannot learn that by during a lecture. And as Patrick mentioned, there are always some drawbacks. Always there's this struggle with fit in the team. Not everyone's contributing enough for the project, but I think also when I look at from the side, I see that's understandable. That also in real life it could be that when you're in work environment that you need to adjust to others.
Right.
But in work environment, difference is that you get paid salary to do it, and if you don't do your work, you get out of it. In this case, you can slack and still get through somehow.
Don't you feel there's anything you can do with slackers?
With slackers, yes, our group during the semester has evolved, and we have changed our members as
During the semester?
No, during the project, because we have stayed as a group for multiple projects together, but some of the members, one member every semester has been asked to leave or something like that.
Oh, really?
Or added. So we have some rotation to optimize our work.
I see.
But even now, it still seems like maybe it's not as efficient as it could be. But yeah, it's getting hard to actually think of what else to change in terms of group members.
Okay, what did you... Oh, okay, so now you're talking strictly about group members. Did you think about changing something else than your group members? Something less radical, maybe?
For example, we
Or
At
more
some points, we
difficult?
try to change up our work methods, as in, for example, multiple times we try to use Trello as one of the tools
Mm.
that we would use to organize how we do work, but all of the times it mostly failed. Like, that's just
Okay, why do you think that is?
maybe I would think hmm, one of the bad points about our team is that we're too sociable, like too friendly to each other. So there's no
Hmm.
environment of work getting done. It's more like,
Okay.
okay, let's talk about stuff we're interested in, and then suddenly like no one's productive anymore.
You seem pretty silent when I was there.
Hmm?
You seem pretty silent when I was there.
Yeah, we seemed quite silent. Maybe that was because of your presence,
Sorry.
but it depends. Like sometimes for the whole day, it could be just like one guy shows something funny, then the other one remembers something else, and just like
What do you
no
think?
work gets done.
What do you
And
think, Chris? Do you concur or do you think it's different?
I agree with that. Yes, that once we know what we do, we work the best in small groups, but not all five of us. Like the group meetings should be when we agree on major steps, but after that we don't need to sit. I think today, if everyone knows what to do, we don't have to sit together. Not necessarily. It's more distraction than help at this part of the semester. Earlier on, it makes more sense to get together and discuss what's the topics and how to structure everything.
And in some cases, we actually try to deal with it. Some group members, just for example, one group member might go out to the library to work alone on something that they know that they need to get done in the group, but that's it. Like, if it's not something that needs to be discussed as a major idea about the whole project, then yeah,
Mhm.
we might separate ourselves. Like,
And when you do get together, all five of you, what do you think is the balance between getting work done and not getting work done? If you had to put percentages on it,
percentages.
let's say, or
Okay,
roughly.
if we're all five there, then usually it's about like 40% work done and 60% of just slacking around.
Okay, and what does slacking around comprise of? What are the main activities of slacking?
It's like talking about the technology news or whatever, talking about what's in our lives, at our workplaces, eating, snacking, whatever.
Memes.
Memes, yes.
Where
of course.
where do you get the news and the memes from?
Depends. Like
Facebook.
For me, I don't actually follow any media, so I usually get it from other friends or other coworkers. Or
They
whatever.
like for just verbal
Yeah,
interaction?
Yeah, mostly that. Or sometimes through text, like some friends might message me about something new or whatever.
Message you on
On Facebook Messenger.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
what we mostly use. Not that I really like it, but it's what the majority uses, so it's hard to switch to something else.
Okay, you mean in the group work or with friends?
With friends.
With friends.
For group work, we also use Facebook Messenger, and we at one point we tried switching, but it didn't work out so well. But switching to Discord, which is not really meant for group work, but and yeah, I think that nobody used it because maybe it's just not as familiar, and no one wanted to install another program on their phones or computers. It's just like
Mhm.
Facebook was already there, and it was used by something else. Like most of us, okay, some of us have the opinion that if it wasn't for uni, then maybe we would uninstall Facebook already because of the bad press and media that they get. Like,
Okay, so you have university is one of the reasons that you keep Facebook on your phone.
yeah, because also
Okay, that's very interesting.
yeah, there are also many groups like ITCOM help other students with their questionnaires and stuff like that, and it really helps with that facilitation of educational, I don't know, socializing, but also all sorts of events at AU are also posted on Facebook. Like that's
Right.
the main reason how.
Right.
That's the main way how you find out about them.
Right.
But yeah.
But you said Facebook can also be quite distracting.
Yes, Facebook is distracting, and for myself personally, I have put some measures or some restrictions.
Okay.
For example,
Can you tell me?
when I decide that now I should start working, or I catch myself that I'm checking Facebook and I should be working, I use Chrome extension that blocks all the websites that I have selected, the websites that usually waste my time, and yeah, every time I accidentally enter the website, it's not being shown to me. Of course, I can enter it from my phone, but this reminds me that I should be working, and yeah, and for me it helps.
Right.
It helps me to at least not spend the time there. Yeah.
You find also that this particular social network can be also useful for your group work?
Facebook for us, as mentioned, it's used for messaging. I think it could, but it's not like unique. It can be substituted, or we could use Slack instead, or we could use. I think there are different platforms, but because of the network effect, and yeah, I also before coming to Denmark, I didn't have Facebook at all. So I installed and signed up for Facebook only because of reasons like university and finding accommodation, finding about events, and different clubs that I'm part of.
Are there any other sources that you get your news and your memes and your things from, like that kind of impact your group work?
For me, actually, one of other sources, for example, for some news would be from my coworkers, and we usually communicate through Slack. So that's the app that we use. It's very work focused.
Where do you work, or what do you do?
I work at Index Design to Improve Life. It's an organization. It's hard to explain, but
The Index Awards?
yes,
Yeah,
Index Award. Yeah.
And what do you do there?
I'm a web developer there. Basically, currently I'm building their new website. And yeah, sometimes news topics about maybe some social issues or design stuff, like that's the stuff that's usually discussed in our Slack general group, because it's also usually somewhat relevant to our own work procedure that we do.
And do you feel that impacts your group work here at Aalborg?
The Slack?
Oh yeah. Or not really?
I mean, not that much. I mean, sometimes, maybe stuff like, I don't know, recently there was this thing about Alabama, basically making abortions illegal or whatever, and I just heard about that through Slack, like one day before that. So I mean, it does connect in some way, but usually, it's just like one or two articles that catch my eye, and then maybe they will be discussed in group work, but usually, it doesn't affect it too much.
For me, I get my information through Twitter and also local media from my home country. That's my two main sources. On Twitter, I get international news and everything that I'm interested in. All the my personal interests, and then local news. And if you asked Patrick about how does it impact the group work, and yes, sometimes I share some information I have read online on Twitter, etc., and then I share the article or discuss it during our group work. And also sometimes it's YouTube where I find some kind of video, or someone else shares a video. It can be relevant to project often, that's where we get our first introduction to the topic we are researching, and then we start from there. That's good ways how we use YouTube, and sometimes it happens to be that it's random music videos that weren't played while you were observing, but just before you came, it was the case that somebody just wanted to play this funny song to others.
I noticed you were talking about one of your group mates using Facebook a bit too much at the end.
Yes.
Is that something that you consider to be a problem?
I'm not here to judge, and
Nobody's here to judge.
No, but my take on it is that for example, I'm not judging because I understand that I spend my time I waste my time in different ways, but the fact that algorithm never stops and you can stay there forever, I think that's something I have realized, but I see that still is an issue.
My comment would be that in this particular case, I don't think that Facebook is the one at fault, because that specific team member has also sometimes been seen doing watching YouTube in the middle of a group meeting or group work. So it doesn't really matter what's the media source that he uses his time on, just sometimes that he gets distracted when he doesn't have anything specific to work on. So it's just a term of like, it's a problem of inner management in that sense, that we don't distribute our work efficiently all the time.
I see. Do you think there's a link between how specific your task is, or how clear the goal is, and how distracted you get?
Yeah, I think, the more specific your task is, like the clearer it is, the more efficiently you can do it, and usually the more motivation we have. Because otherwise, sometimes we get stuck on, okay, how do we actually do this, and people actually roll into the cycle of, okay, we don't know how to do this, and then we're just like not focused at all anymore. And then we're just leaving that task for another day because we don't know how to do it right now. So, yeah.
I see.
Recently, we have been discussing if our project was only about manual work, only transcribing interviews or like writing reviews without thinking, that would be a whole different thing. But once somebody has to participate and take initiative and come up with the conclusions or decisions, then we see lack of activity in our group members, and we're lacking, our team is lacking that leader who takes the initiative and distributes the work to others. And when we don't have this leader, people are pretty passive, and that might cause an issues in effective work distribution, and time gets wasted. That's my feeling. Yeah.
I see. So there's no one to kind of distribute work around.
And I was even saying, worst case, if people can't do it,
fair enough.
I don't care
Let me
if
just
it's
see
two
here.
or the three of us finishing it. Don't really care. There's not that much.
If
left
it's
to do.
recording.
It's just stuff.
It is.
Or even that we agree that people just do certain things and then.
How do you coordinate work in on this topic? How do you coordinate work in a group? Like if somebody's not present, you kind of have to assign him tasks.
The AI project we would have to work on. That's the only thing.
If somebody is not present, usually they.
Or if they're working from remote, like at the library, like you said.
Yep.
So if you're not all present in the room, then how do you coordinate over distance?
I mean, if they have a specific task delegated to them, we can usually leave them on their own to complete the task. If they have some questions or anything, usually we still communicate through Facebook Messenger. Otherwise, not all tasks need constant discussion between the group members.
But definitely, if a member doesn't know what to do, it's harder to delegate them tasks. The easiest way to delegate them tasks is when we meet up, because then we get the big overall picture. What are they up? Sometimes in person they don't have work. We might think that they are still working, but because we haven't communicated, we think that they are still working on something and we shouldn't distract them. But when we meet up, we realize that they are actually not doing anything that's serious or not doing anything at all. And we should have done it earlier, assigned tasks. But that's because of lack of leadership in the group.
Why do you think that lack of leadership is?
Because I think dynamic has changed. I don't know what Patrick. We have had somebody who takes initiative for some period of time, but if there would be one person who delegates all the tasks, that would help many group members to easier.
Yeah, with previous semesters, there was also the part. This semester is a bit different because we only have the analytical part of our project, not the technical. So we don't actually develop anything. In development sense, we sometimes had some members who started the development task and then said, okay, you can do this part, you can do this part, and so on. When it comes to purely analytical, all members feel equal in the sense that none of them fully know what is expected of this project. So none of them feel like, okay, I will be the one to take lead and I will tell other members what to do, how to do it, and so on. It seems, a bit of a lack of information.
Do you feel also in terms of productivity, this thing that you're only doing analytical and not implementing something has some kind of impact, some kind of weight?
Yeah, for a lot of members, I feel like it's the feeling that they don't feel like they're doing all that much because there's no actual result that we can show. With previous semesters, the technical aspect always showed, okay, this is our actual product that we developed. This is our work. Like, this is our fruit of work. But in this project, it's hard to show that. It's purely analytical. It's all based on other people's work, and yeah.
Yeah, I understand. So then that kind of circles back to the goal being less concrete.
Yeah.
And then you feel you focused better in other projects than this one?
Yeah, when we actually knew, okay, this is probably what our system or what our software should look like. Let's try to achieve that, and then we set out like smaller goals, maybe to achieve that. Like first we'll implement this, and then that.
Mm-hmm. And in which parts of the project do you feel you get most distracted or kind of waste most time?
Definitely at the beginning. There's no time constraint. And that's bad. And at the beginning you always want to start in the right way, but there is no right way at the beginning when you don't know. You don't want to make mistakes, and that's why you don't proceed. And always the curve of development is for us. It's always like how we progress is like it's a slow start and then gradually increase. And last 2 weeks we are like working the most of the time, and most of the report is written in the last 2 weeks, and it's very very rapid at the end. But until that point, and we have acknowledged that, and we don't even try to change it because that's how we work. We have seen other people or people who we work with that they work differently, but we see that for us it's like this. Last 2 weeks we will work and focus on finishing the project. We cannot we cannot finish 1 month earlier in the same pace. It's not working for us.
Yeah, we do see this as a problem, but we're not too sure how to fix this procrastination issue. Some methods have helped, like making a time schedule of, okay, this week we'll work on this week we'll work on that, and so on. But very usually we still go way beyond that schedule, we're still late on everything, so yeah.
Do you think the thing of you being friends and sharing stuff has to do with that?
I mean, yeah, it does have something to do with it, because then, okay, if someone doesn't deliver on a deadline, we're like, okay, yeah, you had this and this going on in your life, that's fine, we understand.
I see. And do you feel social media might play a role into this, directly or indirectly?
I mean, in terms of having stuff going on in their life, I don't think social media is the one to blame, but...
No, but when you're supposed to work, or sort of dedicated time slots to work.
I mean, when we are all grouped together, yes, in those moments you can see, okay, this person is not working. Is it due to social media? Yeah, maybe. But when they are away, usually it's something like, okay,
it's very hard to say.
They have some specific stuff going on in their life, maybe.
We can only talk about ourselves and that scenario, and I can say yes, I get distracted by social media, and when there's no deadlines or there's no urgency in our group, then I will not force myself to quit social media and focus on the project.
Mm-hmm.
So, but once the task is more concrete, there is 10 days left, and then I might remember, okay, I should stop scrolling and start doing.
Yeah.
Plan my time more precisely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there anything else you would wish to add about social media in your group in terms of both positive and negative impact? Maybe there's.
Related to our group work, social media.
I mean, do we even use anything else?
Regarding our projects, Facebook is the main social media, and then there's YouTube, which also takes part of our time, and then there are other social networks that's individual to each of us. Like I mentioned, Twitter. I'm not sure if others are using, and for others it might be Instagram, but those networks are like time wasters, like individual time wasters, and it's not related to group specifically. we just see YouTube and Facebook's the main thing that could waste our time when we are together and trying to work on something.
Although he said that 60% of the time that you meet, you don't get stuff done.
When we meet-
you asked question about how efficient we are, and you answered.
I said
40%.
40% doing work, 60% wasting time.
And
Yeah.
60% wasting time. So my take on that is that we are
See things differently.
maybe even more. I would be more with. At the beginning, we waste even more time than 60%, and during the last weeks we reduce that. I think most of us at the end of the week. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. This specific example of today was a bit maybe biased, precisely because it was very close to the deadline. So that's the period when we're at most like productive. So we were
That's true.
quite silent, like we were actually discussing the report. And
That's not the case always. That
Yeah.
we are silently writing stuff. That's only last weeks of the project.
I see. Okay, fair enough. So the deadline has a big role.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If there is more strict deadlines, would be more strict deadlines or in the process that might help us. If we would have this month, it has to be this section done, like handed in, that'd be different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, it's like this, and we just deal with it. We don't. We see that we cannot change it. We try to adapt to our way of how we work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Thank you. Now